This is ET Now, India's #1 business news channel, whichever metric you look at. Thanks so much for your faith week after week. I'm Sandeep Gurumurthy and you're watching Business Tonight.
It's a great evening indeed to be with you, and let's take it straight across to our top story with me, Supriya Srinivasan, as well, right here in Delhi. And we are indeed going to talk about the mother of all battles, and that's the battle for Bihar, which seems to be going down to the wire. With the 5-phase assembly polls coming to an end, all eyes are now on Sunday when the big results will be out. And going by the exit polls that have been reported so far, the Nitish Kumar-led alliance is seen ahead in the race. Most psephologists predict a victory for the Mahagathbandhan, giving it anything between 120 to 140 seats in the 243-member assembly, while the BJP is seen winning between 100 to 111 seats. Poll forecaster Chanakya, however, is singing a different tune, giving BJP a clear majority. Chanakya says the Saffron Party could win as many as 155 seats, and the Nitish Lalu Congress combined may end up with just a little over 80.
The stakes are very high for both sides. For JDU leader Nitish Kumar, it's clearly a make-or-break situation, as a defeat will push him into political oblivion. On the other side, any setback in Bihar will be a big loss of face for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who put all his might to unseat his former ally Nitish Kumar. Not just that, Bihar elections is important from the reform perspective as well, with many of the crucial economic bills stalled in the Rajya Sabha, where the ruling combined is in a minority. The big battle for Bihar and what it means to the national polity and reform process, that's our top story on Business Tonight.
A 5-phase, bitterly contested Bihar election is over, and now it's the turn of the exit polls. C-Voter exit poll predicts a slight edge for the Grand Alliance of Nitish, Lalu and Sonia, putting the Mahagathbandhan ahead of the Narendra Modi-led NDA.
अब मेरा प्रकाश सुन लीजिए, 190 सीट पर महागठबंधन जीत रहा है। पूछिएगा कैसे? एक तरफ है संख्या 90 का।
Exit polls by ABP Nielsen see the Nitish camp as comfortably placed with a majority of its own over the NDA.
I see quite elated faces of few people just with the exit poll results. I should believe the elation should be kept for the 8th of this month. Please don't get so happy and so elated before the results are stated.
After all, the Chanakya exit poll paints a completely different picture, predicting a landslide victory for the BJP-led alliance.
नहीं, अभी एग्जिट पोल के अलग-अलग आंकड़े आएंगे। हमें तो भाजपा को और एनडीए को तो आशा है ही है कि बिहार की जनता का सेवा करने का एक अवसर मिलेगा।
Overall, the poll of polls shows the NDA leading the field, leaving the Nitish camp on shaky ground.
पूर्ण बहुमत मिलने वाली और 2/3 बहुमत मिलने वाली बिहार की जनता समझदार जनता है। वो बिहार के इस विधानसभा चुनाव में निर्णायक वोट देने वाली।
Yet, there are many who believe the exit polls are on the conservative side.
All the pollsters are being very careful. Let me say it now. All the correction that is going to happen henceforth is going to be correction for the JDU plus alliance, Mahagathbandhan, RJD plus alliance, whatever.
While the real thing is locked up in the EVMs, exit polls are indicating Bihar election is heading for a nail-biting climax. Bureau Report, Times Now.
Okay, what does the Bihar verdict really mean for Modi government and the incumbent state government? Let's take it across to our expert panel. Is this really going to be a referendum on Prime Minister Modi and his government so far? Joining us on the show are two very special guests. We'll also be joined by another guest in just a few minutes from now. ET Now's consulting editor Swaminathan Iyer, who toured Bihar extensively, comes in with his perspective. Rajiv Kumar, a very eminent economist, senior fellow at Center for Policy Research, also joins in. And Sanjay Nair, CEO of KKR India, one of India's top private equity investors, also will be joining in just a minute, in minutes from now, with his perspective. Thank you so much for joining us right here on ET Now. Swami, the big question, is the result, whichever way it is the result of these Bihar polls a referendum on the Modi government? Because looks like it's going to be a close battle with Nitish just about in the lead.
Well, all I can say is that I have seen so far the results of 4 exit polls. One of them showed the NDA well ahead, One of them showed the JDU well ahead, and the other two showed the election on a knife edge. So I would say that as a result of the exit polls, we are none the wiser. All that we know is that voters don't tell surveyors the truth. So I would say we need to wait for the final result. The exit polls have not made us any wiser.
All right, the exit polls haven't made us any wiser, but if you actually go by the exit polls, 4 of the 5 are giving the Nitish-led Mahagathbandhan a lead. Dr. Kumar, if I may come to you, is this a result and a referendum on the Modi government, you believe? It is a closely fought election, a no-holds-barred battle, but do you believe this is a verdict on the 17 months of the government's performance here in New Delhi?
I don't know about the referendum on the Modi government, but I know that this result is really a victory for Indian democracy, simply because it is very clear that all the old equations and all the old understanding of caste and communalism and religion, etc., are out of the window, and very clearly the voters have said that they're going to vote for the development agenda, and the one who delivers a better development agenda will be voted in. And clearly they thought that Nitish has done a good job and promises to do a good job, and because they knew that Mr. Modi will not be the Chief Minister of Bihar, they have voted a government in which they think will deliver to them what their aspirations are. And the second point that I'd like to make is that it's clearly an indicator, or if you like a referendum, that for Mr. Modi, the business as usual model that he's adopted so far will simply not work. He will have to think differently, he'll have to act differently, tweaking at the margins that I think he has done so far, and the continuity that he has maintained with the sort of previous regimes, it should be a clear signal to him that that's not going to deliver in the coming days, and the people did not elect him for that. People elected him to do things differently.
All right, that's a strong word that's coming in from Dr. Rajiv Kumar, but let me just stay with you for a while, because the exit polls, and like I said, 4 out of the 5 are giving Nitish an edge over the BJP camp. How big a setback will this really be for the central government here? They've put all their might behind it, the biggest stars, their showstopper, Prime Minister Modi led that entire campaign. How much of a blow will this be for the NDA combined here in New Delhi?
Well, I don't want to take it as a setback. I want to take it as a impetus, as a stimulus for this government to do more, do better, do differently, and to take up the development agenda that they were elected upon and show results, and therefore be bold, therefore take up the reform that they have been in some sense afraid to do so. Recently an SBI report came along which said 1,000 steps make a long march. People are not interested. People are interested in some 1,000 steps, but they're also interested in seeing some leaps. They're also wanting to see things which will actually make a difference to their lives. So I don't want to see it as a setback at all. I want to see it as a midterm lesson and as a right feedback for the government to start doing things differently.
Right. Swami, comment on that. I know you're still not any wiser looking at the exit polls so far, but if you look at the majority of the exit polls, they seem to be giving Nitish a bit of an edge. I know one poll is giving a clear majority to the BJP-led combined, but if the BJP were to lose, if the NDA were to lose these elections, how big a setback is this really going to be for the government?
Well, let us first of all see that if that happens, what is the extent of the loss? Given that this is a first past the post system, whoever wins may win with a complete sweep, not just a narrow victory but with a very big margin. So if after all this effort of Modi and Amit Shah, if Nitish Kumar wins by a very large margin, what are the consequences? First, it will mean that the Amit Shah strategy of trying to consolidate the Hindu vote has been a failure. And the idea of trying to push Hindutva in various ways, be soft on any criticism of any of the Hindu groups, that particular thing has failed. And I think that would have important implications for governance in the coming months. What else would it mean? If Nitish wins, it would mean that economic development of the kind Nitish has done, rural electrification has been a huge thrust in the last 18 months. They've gone up from about 1,900 to 3,400 megawatts of power evacuated per day. So I think that is the kind of thing that matters. Mind you, Modi also represents development, which is why he did very well in Bihar in the general election. So it would appear the one thing in common is that, both of them stand for development. Modi found it much easier to win in 1984 by campaigning against the UPA. He's finding it much more difficult to win by campaigning against Nitish Kumar.
Right, that's the political view. We've got your view of an economist. We've got your view of from Swaminathan Iyer as well. But let's also welcome our special guest, Sanjay Nair, country head CEO of KKR India, joining in live on the show. Sanjay, always a pleasure chatting with you here at ET Now. The way you're looking at things, do you think it's too much being made of these elections? I know there's some amount of nervousness in the markets today as well in anticipation of a verdict, but do you think it's too much being made of these elections? At the end of the day, they are state polls, and do you think they will really have a meaningful impact on the reform course of this government? What is your view?
I think that there's obviously a lot made out of it. I don't know how we get to this at every point in time, but there is a clear majority at the center as a clear mandate given just a year and a half ago, and I think we just have to get on with that. Now these elections will keep coming up, and if we make such a big deal about each one of them, it's going to be really, really problematic. So my view is that I think reforms have started in a way, very bottoms up. There are a lot of changes that are happening. Whether they speed up or they slow down, I would be disappointed if they're slowed down, frankly. I hope they're speeded up, because from the view of a foreign investor who's bringing in foreign savings on a long-term basis, high-quality long-term capital, the entire private capital community, which I think is a huge additive for growth in this country. We just need to see the realization of the India opportunity. So opportunity is pretty clear. There are some reforms that are underway. Some more need to be done and hurried up, irrespective of what the results are. Between this election and the next state election, it doesn't matter. We just got to get on with life. And I just hope that that's the case. So my answer to your question is that if there is a slowdown, I'll be very disappointed. I hope it's not. If there is a pickup, with whatever the result be, that'll be the best outcome. And there are some very clear 3-4 things that need to be done. So we just got to get on with it.
I was actually tempted to ask you this. What are the next few things? There was a Bihar overhang of sorts as far as the government's own functioning was concerned, and even capital markets. You said 3-4 things need to be done. Which are the next 3-4 things that should be the priority for the government?
I think it's pretty simple. Again, I'm not an economist, so I can't give you a framework like that. But I would say broadly, you've got certain issues that make sure that the Indian business community has the confidence to invest in this country. And I think that's coming back a little bit. We need to see that coming back. It can't be the demand side. The demand side is obviously intact. It's got to be issues to do with policy, taxation, whatever, and I think those are getting sorted out. So very clearly, let's get the confidence and whatever it takes to get the Indian business, private business sector to be confident of investing in this country to build real assets. Public sector is a good way to start. Let's get that started. So that's point number 2. There is an allocation made to railways, irrigation, highways. Let's get that going. In terms of getting important foreign capital, which is important because there is a deficit in a way, you do need long-term foreign savings. I think the Ministry of Finance is doing a lot. I mean, I've been a part of many meetings where they're trying to address issues on POEM and taxation. I think those will get sorted out. The foreign money will always come in response to the opportunity. I think there are larger issues on the table which need to be acted on. The bankruptcy code is a very critical thing. There is a movement on that. There are larger issues in GST and land that I'm not an expert on, but I would say they've become a big slogan. But things can be done anyway within the context of what is there today. So I would say be pragmatic, let's get on with the reforms. Foreign capital is available, but most importantly, get the local business confidence back into investing in real assets. And I think that's really what it takes to get there.
Sanjay, how will the FII community really view a setback if there were to be for the BJP? You said you'll be disappointed if there were to be a slowdown in the reform process, but how will the FII community really react to a setback for the BJP? This is an important election and one which will have implications at a national level.
You know, I don't know how the FII community will be, but I can tell you the private equity community, the private capital that, you know, I represent and my colleagues represent, I think they're still looking at the long-term opportunity. The long-term opportunity is intact. There is a strong degree of conviction for growth, for reforms, for governance. There are some initial signs of it. Let's just speed it up. How the FIs react and our capital markets react, I really don't have an answer for you. I find that they're rather shallow. They're pretty volatile, and you know, there's not the same long-term approach that a lot of the foreign capital, like what we represent, can bring to the table. And I don't mean just us, but you know, the private equity community today is as much as 50% of the FDI. So I would say that, you know, it doesn't really matter what the Bihar outcome is. And frankly, I haven't even seen the exit polls. I don't know, but I would say the important thing is just get on with what we are meant to do, and you know, no one's going to stop you, frankly, so just got to get on with it.
Sanjay, I have another question for you, but would just urge you to stay on. I want to slip in one question to Swaminathan Iyer as well. Swami, what's your view? Do you believe that that the government could turn more populist if the verdict were to go against it? Do you think it'll be because the fact is that then it's a victory of a coalition of forces that are more sort of left of center, so to say? Do you think that could push the government to be more populist? Is that a likely outcome?
No, I don't think so. Either way, I think, you know, there has been an obsession with Bihar and a worry about what will happen to Bihar, which I think had led to delays in decision making. Plus, of course, the fact that the election commissioner says you're not supposed to take any decisions in the run-up to the election. So there has been a period when nothing very much has been happening. I think there will now be an attempt to get to grips with the matter. If the BJP wins, I think it will be more problematic. Some people may say that if the BJP wins big, that is a vote for Hindutva, that is a vote for Hindu consolidation rather than development. So if that happens, there is a chance things go the wrong way. But if it's a close contest or if Nitish Kumar wins, I think it will be a clear sign that Mr. Modi needs to go ahead with reforms. He needs to accelerate growth. He needs to create the jobs. That is what he promised. He has not delivered sufficiently so far, and he needs to deliver.
Sanjay, you spoke about GST, and you know, given the whole polarized political climate that we are seeing right now in the country and the kind of divisions that we're seeing in our polity, chances are that we are likely to see a pretty curtailed winter session of Parliament as well. Unlikely that the GST could go through. What's your sense? Have you know, private equity firms and you know, foreign funds now budgeted the fact that GST is unlikely to go through in 2016, or is there still some hope?
You know, I don't think we budget year by year whether GST will go through or not. I think just conceptually, if you have this tax reform, it is going to be very beneficial. It adds a few basis points to the GDP and to every company's revenues. So I don't really have a comment on that. I think that we need a degree of leadership here to just get on with the reforms. I think there is obviously a political angle to all of this, which I'm not an expert of, but a bit of outreach and a bit of you know, discussions around the aisles makes a lot of sense. But you know, this thing about just GST or just land bills, these are not at least what the private equity guys look for per se. We want to just see that if we are all underwriting a growth of 7% or whatever, and 15% growth in the companies, that comes through, which means the demand is there, the pricing power is there, inflation is under control, financing costs under control. So it's pretty simple. It's not that complicated. It's like you own a company, you want to make sure it delivers to its promise. Because the country is so huge and the opportunity is so big, just got to realize that, and I think we can have very good returns. So I'm actually not very, hassled about any of this. It's just amazing how everything seems to peak at one event or the other. In fact, we have a lot of explaining to do as to why is it a peak all of a sudden. We just had a general elections. I think we had elections, we have a government in place, give them the solid 5 years, and I think in return they need to just get on with what they have to do and just, forget everything else. I mean, that's my very crude way of putting it here.
So one last question before I let you go off to your dinner, Sanjay, this evening. You're essentially saying this is not a referendum on the 17 months of the Modi government. The question that comes to my mind then is investment decisions, fund flows. Will this all really be determined by what the US Fed does? What about corporate earnings in India? And of course the fact that the investment cycle hasn't revived as yet. It has very little to do with politics, according to you.
The investment cycle is the only valid point. We need to get the investment spending coming back, and we need to see financial savings going up in India. That's all you need to focus on. What the Fed does, I think we're relatively in a pretty good position. I mean, relatively today, India is in a very good position, willy-nilly, whatever way we are, but we are in a pretty good position. Okay, we have stable macros, albeit at a lower level of growth. The worry that one has to think about, if you get to a higher level of growth, which macro goes out of sync? Maybe current account does, maybe the rupee does, maybe inflation does. And I think that's obviously in very good hands with the folks at the RBI. So I would just worry about getting the investment spending going, the financial savings increase hopefully over time if inflation expectations come down. We really have a recipe for success. And I think we just got to get opportunities for investments and spending going for local business people funded by local savings. You get that going, everything else comes in superior.
All right, Sanjay Nair, thank you so much for taking time out and joining in with that perspective right here on ET Now. Always a pleasure chatting with you, but I'll let Dr. Rajiv Kumar have the last word in this discussion. Dr. Rajiv Kumar, irrespective of which way the result comes out, are there chances that the government could get back to its core development agenda of job creation? There's been a lot of rhetoric, a lot of talk on, a lot of communal issues as well. Do you think now the government will now focus back on its core agenda of development and job creation?
Well, I hope so, and I very much think that it must, if it has to, because, there are 3 elections coming up next year. I suppose it's Punjab, West Bengal and Tamil Nadu. Then in 2017, it's the big one in UP. If they don't do that now, if they don't produce results now, and most importantly, if they don't jettison this business as usual model, then I'm afraid, they will continue to do badly. So, and if Mr. Modi does want to be a 2-term Prime Minister, as I hope and as I think he does want to be, he must know that employment generation, job generation is the key for this country at this moment. Because otherwise the youth which elected him will see its aspirations not being met, and therefore will take no time in rejecting him.
Dr. Rajiv Kumar, Swaminathan Iyer, always a pleasure chatting with you. Sanjay Nair as well. Thanks for joining in with that perspective on business tonight. Hope to have all of you back on the discussion on Sunday when the results are announced finally by the Election Commission. But talk about market action then. As Bihar voted today, investors were jittery in the Lal Street. Markets continued to reel under pressure amidst last